Hello, my dear friends. Today we are going to discuss the Hindu current affairs. My name is Lakshmaya. I teach science and technology and anthropology. So, today, two important, exciting topics are there, which are very, very important for your examination point of view, and they're very quite interesting. So, number one is Azerbaijan and Armenia conflict. So, that is one of the most important area which will be useful for your mains point of view as a case study also. So the conflict between the Azerbaijan and Armenia is because of one particular geographical location called as Nagorno-Karabakh region. Nagorno-Karabakh region. So it is a Nagorno-Karabakh region is largely mountainous and forested region. It is home for 1,50,000 people is at the center of this conflict. The major conflicted region between the Azerbaijan and Armenia is nothing but Nagorno-Karabakh. So how Turkey is playing a key role, particularly between the conflict between Azerbaijan and Armenia. And this Nagorno-Karabakh is located within Azerbaijan region, but it is populated mostly by the Armenian ethnicity. The people of this Nagorno-Karabakh region, which is located in Azerbaijan region, and the most of the people, mostly these people are Armenian ethnicity. These two countries are the part and parcel of USSR. The conflict can be traced back to the pre-Soviet era when the region was at the meeting point of Ottoman, Russian, and Persian empires. So this is the major region. So this conflict region, it is this is the region which is the joint between the Ottoman, Russian, and Persian empires. That is why it is the most important region for all these conflicts. So what are the major important concepts about this? Once Azerbaijan and this timeline, we are going to discuss about the timeline. After the timeline, how Turkey played a crucial role for this particular conflict, and then we'll be discussing about the role of Russia. Azerbaijan and Armenia became the Soviet republics in 1921. Moscow gave Nagorno Karabakh to Azerbaijan but offered autonomy to the contested region. So, Nagorno Karabakh region has been given to the Azerbaijan, and whereas in the case of and that particular region has been given autonomy to that particular uh, Nagorno Karabakh region. But in 1988, 1980s, when the Soviet power was receding, slowly as the Soviet power was receding, separatist currents picked up in Nagorno Karabakh region. Separatist. So the declining of the Soviet power. So the separatists are coming out of this particular Nagorno Karabakh region. So actually, these people are not at all willing to stay with Azerbaijan, and they want to stay with the Armenia because the people of this Nagorno Karabakh belongs to that Armenia ethnicity. So in 1988, the National Assembly voted to dissolve the region's autonomous status and join Armenia. So in 1988, the National Assembly had given in favor of Armenia to join this Nagorno. But when Armenia and Azerbaijan became the independent states after the collapse of the USSR, the clashes led to an open war in which tens of thousands were killed. The war lasted till 1994 when both sides reached a ceasefire. So from 1991 to 1994, the war was continued, and this is one of the important conflict. So which has continuous lasted for more than 3 years, and despite the ceasefire, there were occasional flare ups on the border. In July this year, at least 16 people were killed in clashes. So, this is the history of this particular Azerbaijan and Armenia conflict. So, why this Azerbaijan is dominating? Actually, the people belongs to the Armenian ethnicity, and how this Azerbaijan is controlling on these particular issues is nothing but Azerbaijan has built up several gas and pipelines because it is an energy rich country across the Caucasus to Turkey and Europe, and this includes Baku, um, Tbilisi, Sihan oil pipeline, and the Western Route Explorer oil pipeline, the Trans-Anatolian gas pipeline, and South Caucasus pipeline. So this is one of the energy rich country, and this energy rich country has made its conflict with all the it is making gas pipes gas to the various through the various routes. Some of these pipelines pass close to the conflict zones, and in an open war between the two countries, the pipelines could be targeted, which would impact energy supplies. This is the place with um, um, through which the entire pipelines are supposed to go. But why Turkey is playing a crucial role, particularly in this? So, if you can able to remember, United Arab Emirates has departed away from the Turkey, and it is slowly moving to Israel, and the Turkey is unable to get the oil reserves, and it is going to be depend upon Azerbaijan. Turkey has historically supported Azerbaijan and has had a troublesome relationship with Armenia. So actually, the vested interests are there for Turkey to have the support towards Azerbaijan, because Azerbaijan is an energy rich region. And in the 1990s, during the war, Turkey closed its border with Armenia, and it has no diplomatic relations with the country, and it has completely stopped its diplomatic relations with Armenia. On the other hand, the Azeris and Turks share strong cultural and historical relations. So this is one more important advantage for the Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan and Turkey and Azers and Turkey people are having the strong cultural and historical links. Azerbaijanis are a Turkic ethnic group, and their language is from the Turkish family. So that is why. So their ethnicity can be related back from this particular Turkish. So hence we can say economic interests are there for Turkey, cultural relations are there for Turkey with reference to the Azerbaijan. So it is unconditionally supporting Azerbaijan rather than the Armenia. Azerbaijan became independent. Turkey established its strong relations with the country, which has been ruled by a dynastic dictatorship. So Azerbaijan is completely supported by the Turkey. Turkey was recruiting um, the military personnel from West Asia to fight for Azerbaijan in the Caucasus. This fits well into Ankara's aggressive foreign policy, which seeks to expand Turkish interests into the former Ottoman territories. So, my personal opinion to this particular issue is, so as UAE has seceded or moving away from this Turkey, so Turkey is in need of the oil resource, and it wants to establish its power in the Middle East, and that is how it is showing its power to support to Azerbaijan and against the Armenia. But Armenia is more dependent on Russia than the energy-rich, ambitious Azerbaijan. Russia has also military base in this Armenia, and but Russia is maintaining some silence, because they are the most important issue is nothing but Russians are supplying weapons both for the Armenia as well as Azerbaijan, and somewhat it is in favor of Armenia, but it is not in a position to support explicitly towards the Armenia. So that is the concept with reference to the Azerbaijan Armenia conflict, and which will be useful for your examination point of view, particularly with reference to international relations or India foreign policy also. So if you look at the integration of this particular area is very important. For example, Ukraine, one of the part of the Ukraine is nothing but Kiev, and the people of the Kiev has underwent a referendum, and because of the referendum, the Kiev people want to move towards Russia. So that is what. So the if you look at the Ukraine issue also, the people of Ukraine are more culturally, economically associated with Russia, and the administrators are in favor of the USC. So likewise, here also the people of this conflicted area are towards Armenia, but the administrators are in favor of Turkey as well as Azerbaijan. Okay, next one important and most thought-provoking topic is nothing but managing the global commons. So, which is present in page number 7 of the Hindu paper today, and so which is very important topic. And in writing the big general essays are your to enhance your thought process, enhance your horizon. Global commons refer to shared resources that cannot be managed within the national jurisdictions. So global commons is nothing but, so for example, COVID-19, so which cannot be completely managed by one single nation. So such problems can be called as global commons. So what are the best examples for these global commons? So the spread of zoonotic diseases like COVID-19, greenhouse gas emissions, biodiversity reduction, overfishing, and accumulation of plastic waste are some of the problems within the scope of global commons. So this is very important area for your examining. If you are trying to write any answer with reference to the environment, ecology, biodiversity, so this particular area can be useful. And if you want to give a best solution for the governance also, this is going to be useful. So this global commons issue will be the best issue to deal with any sort of questions, particularly with reference to the global issues. Either it may be environmental, or it may be disaster management, or maybe with reference to the governance also. Okay. So I hope you understood what is global common. So although we have a good idea of what kind of governance might be successful at the local community level, and these insights do not directly address the challenges we face on a global scale. So for example, at the community level, so actually there are two types of administrative mechanisms. One is top-down approach, second one is bottom-up approach. Top-down approach is nothing but, so for example, the union government will be there and it will give some policies and schemes through which the local governments are supposed to follow, which is called as top-down approach. Best example is nothing but MGNREGS scheme. Whereas in the case of bottom-up approach is nothing but, so by observing the problems, so by observing the problems and their solution can be made in the local level is called as bottom-up approach. So here global commons, which type of solution is the best solution for top-down approach or bottom-up approach? So whereas in the case of successful at the local community level, if you take the solutions from the community level, these insights do not directly address the challenges we face on a global scale. The consequences of human activities on a global scale are only being recognized in recent times. So the consequences, so the impact of human activities or the impact of human problems on global scale are being recognized in recent times. The appropriate scale of governance of global commons is a highly debated topic. Some argue that top down governance with the binding agreements is the only effective solution for problems of a global scale. As America is planning to approach in the global top down approach with reference to the COVID-19, with reference to China, but it is not completely successful approach. So you cannot restrict one particular country based on that particular global commons. Multilateral negotiations, okay, on climate change and other global commons over decades have limited success. For example, if it is the top down approach is the successful method, so these environmental issues or the climate change issues might have become successful. So others have emphasized a more decentralized multi-level or polycentric approach that builds on the observed success of local solutions. So for example, if the COVID-19 situation as it was appeared in China in December 2019. So that should be resolved through the multi-level or polycentric approach that builds on the observed success of local solutions. For example, if you look at, for example, local irrigation communities could monitor the state of infrastructure and water use and adapt their watering scheme or cropping patterns to changes in water availability. So, for example, the local communities will be knowing how to handle the water and how to manage with the water, the share of infrastructure and water use and adapt their watering scheme or cropping patterns to changes there in water availability. So that is one of the important concept with reference to the local. So local administrators will be knowing the problems as well as solutions. But whereas in the case of the community members may have more knowledge about the local ecological and social context, but they could also lack expertise. So that is, so they will be they know the ecological problems and social context, but they are not in a position to solve the problems because of lack of expertise, may be ruled by powerful factions within the community, or may not perceive sufficient incentives to sustain the local commons. So they know everything. Local governments or the local organizations, they know everything. So they have more knowledge about the local ecological and social context. But the problem is they are not in a position to provide a solution for that particular problem, and so they doesn't have the expertise to go for the solution. So to manage the global commons, to manage our global commons, we need to facilitate and accommodate the self-governance of the local commons, but provide safeguards at different levels. This is the best solution. We need to facilitate and accommodate self-governance of the local commons, but provide safeguard at different levels to avoid exploitation and manage risks. So this could be the best area for the solution point of view to manage our global commons. We need to facilitate our accommodate the self-governance of local commons, but provide safeguards at different levels to avoid exploitation and managing risk. If we facilitate rural urban communities to self govern their shared resources, there will be risks involved for which cities and nations need to accept responsibility. For example, if you are trying to include the urban communities to solve the problems of rural communities, and the contextual relevance of the technological area cannot be reached up to the extent. At the local levels, initiatives and solutions could be developed that fit the local context. When expertise is not available, higher level organization could facilitate learning from peers in similar conditions. So the solutions should come from the top level, and the machinery and the infrastructure and the people and the method to solve the problem should be from the local level. Failures will be inevitable if we stimulate local level experimentation, and higher level authorities need to provide insurance for those cases. If local initiatives are successful, higher level authorities need to provide insurance that the outcome of those success will not be grabbed by outsiders. So that should be. So the success should not be taken by the outsiders. Governing the global commons is the defining challenge for current and future generations. So that is the concept with reference to this particular local commons, global commons. So I hope you understood this concept. It will be useful for your international relations, will be useful for your governance and environment ecology related issues. So thank you very much, and we'll continue in the next class.